That's why, and the reason why I'm telling you this story too is because I want to motivate some people, and I want to inspire people, because if there's anyone out there, especially over 40, that says, hey, you know what, I can't lose that extra 10 pounds, or I can't do this or that. I did all this in my early 40s. So yeah, I came out of rehab right before COVID, and if I didn't get sober before COVID, I would not have lived. I would have drank myself to death. Because I look at all those lineups during COVID of those people waiting at the liquor stores, and I thought, wow, because I was having full-on seizures if I didn't have my alcohol, and I thought there's no way I would have been able to wait in that lineup without having a seizure or dying. So by chance I got sober. I came out of Westover treatment. I started powerlifting. Everything closed, all the gyms closed down. My friend's like, hey, you can train in my gym. Let's just train in my home gym. I'm like, great. So I trained my little tush off every day for an hour a day. And within a year or two, I literally qualified for nationals. When things opened up, I qualified for nationals. And after nationals, I got a gold medal at nationals. After nationals, I went to Worlds in my first year of competing. And at Worlds, I got 4th place. So in that first year, though, of training, I met a person online by the name of Anne Andrus. We became friends through Facebook, and we were talking about the Olympics, about Laura Hubbard. I don't know if you all remember Laura Hubbard. I think it was the 2020 Olympics. And Laura Hubbard is a biological male. And I said, I can't believe they're letting men go through and compete in the women's category. And Anne's like, well, no, that's fine. I go, what? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you know that I'm a man, don't you? And I said, well, Anne, you're competing in the women's category in my federation, in the Canadian Powerlifting Union, and you've been winning gold medals, taking gold medals away from women. And I was like, well, how far do you expect to go, Anne? Oh, I want to go to Worlds. I want to go as far as I can. And I said, well, Anne, if you do, I'll speak up, because that is completely unfair to women. And I got the old block delete. So I have never spoken to Anne ever since. So I sat with that for a little while. I talked to my boyfriend at the time, and I just said, I just don't feel good about this. Like, I have to speak out. I can't let this go. So I wrote my federation a 2-page letter outlining the physical and mental harms to women if they let men compete against women. So they literally ignored me. They didn't even get back to me and said, thank you so much for your email. We'll take a look into it. Nothing. So I went to social media, and I posted something like, save women's sports, don't let men into women's sports, and they actually sent me a code of ethics violation saying, that's hate speech. You can't say that, April. That goes against our policy. And I was like, okay. And at this time, I was on Team Canada, and I was going to the North American Championships. And I was like, okay. So I was like, well, I need some help. So I reached out to Riley Gaines. I reached out to Linda Blade. At this time, I was working with Rebel News a little bit. And I said, can we draft up a letter? Like, can we do something about this? So we got more exposure on it. And I kept on speaking up about it. And I went on Pierce Morgan. At this time, Anne had won 3 out of 5 records in Alberta. So Anne actually holds 3 out of the 5 records in the province of Alberta in the women's category. So actually, 4 out of the 5 records in Alberta are held by men in the province of Alberta. So currently, I'm trying to work with Danielle Smith and staff to have those records stripped. So I was just talking to her chief of staff. She just left, but I said, that also needs to be part of the legislation, because those records need to be stripped, because they will never be broken by a female. And Anne is actually currently ranked #1 in the world of all time in the women's category. So, unbelievable. So, yeah, so anyways, so I spoke out again after Anne won the records, and that's when the Canadian Powerlifting Union sent me a letter saying, you are suspended for 2 years. So I was kicked off Team Canada. So I had to hire a human rights lawyer, Lisa Bildy, in which Rebel News actually funded my lawyer fees. Thank you very much, Rebel. Yeah. And it was appealed, and it was knocked down to 1 year, which is ridiculous. So it was a very weak, middle-of-the-road decision. Hey, let's make the trans community happy. Let's it was just a very weak decision, right? But let's keep in mind here. So all I did was basically ask for fairness, right? And most of the women in the federation wanted the same thing, but were too afraid to speak up. Everyone behind the scenes was, thank you, April, thank you so much. But you know what, I have a job, or I have this and that, I can't speak up. Meanwhile, Anne, for the 2 years, was making death threats towards myself, made death threats towards Daniel Smith. We had to call the cops on this individual. Made fun of women for being weak. Could make racial slurs and compare themselves to minorities. Do all these things, and not once even got a written formal letter saying you breached the code of ethics, but yet I got multiple violations. So here's the two-tier system that we see, right? I had trans activists try to get me fired from my job. I had to sit down with HR and go through all my tweets because they said I was targeting the trans community. So I sat down with HR, I entertained them, and I said, let's go, let's look at these tweets. Where was I disrespectful? I'm speaking the truth. And also, I have my own belief system, and I have my own religion. And if you're gonna get me to lie, then we have a problem. So they said, nope, April, that's true. You have the right to your own belief, and they actually dismissed it. So I think, yeah. And so, and obviously I was kicked out of the museum, which was celebrating my, my sobriety, overcoming suicide and my sexual abuse. That was also taken down because trans activists went after, obviously, my museum display. So I'm just saying, here we go again with the two-tier system, how I was treated. So to this day, because I did use my voice though, because I did bring attention to this, I did have the policy changed at an international and national level. So I did go to the international president and I did tell them, like, look, we have men competing in the women's category. So they did tell the Canadian Powerlifting Union, look, you need to have a policy in place to protect women. So they did implement testosterone monitoring, and they do have to submit psychological records and medical records if they want to compete, say if they want to go to Worlds. And I know that sounds like not very much, because everyone thinks, well, you could pass testosterone monitoring. It's not that hard. But Anne actually couldn't submit his psychological records. And that's actually, it is a good policy, and they do use it a lot for the Olympics too. Because a lot of these men, like we were talking about earlier, are what they call male, well, I think Menzies use it a lot, male grifters. It's a fetish, right? They just want to go in, they want to win prize money. They just want to win that gold. They want to feed their ego, right? So they don't have this medical diagnosis. And you do need to be diagnosed, and you have to be monitored for a period of 4 years by a doctor. So they don't have these doctor's notes to provide. So it is actually a very good policy. There is, I mean, obviously it will get better as time comes. I do know the International Powerlifting Federation, after seeing what happened at the Olympics, they called me and they said, because they want to get into the Olympics as well, right? They said after what they saw at the Olympics, they're like, we want to make our policy even tighter, because they do not want men getting through. So as much as, yeah.
Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. Members get instant access to all of our shows, invitations to exclusive events, and access to our premium content like live event footage and documentaries you won't see anywhere else. Only Rebel News Plus members can join the conversation by participating in the comments section of our new website. That way you can have your say too. More than anything, though, you'll be able to take pride in supporting real, honest journalism, and you'll help our talented team continue to do the work to push back on the establishment. We really can use your help. We need it, in fact. So thank you, and enjoy Rebel News Plus.